The Galactic Coalition Council chamber floated in orbit around Viridian Prime, a neutral world where decisions affecting trillions of lives took place behind closed doors and reinforced walls. Commander Jake Morrison stood outside those doors, his human instincts telling him something bad was coming, something that would change everything between Earth and the hundreds of alien species that made up the coalition government. Ambassador Lisa Chun walked beside him, her diplomatic credentials giving her access to places most humans could not go. But even she seemed worried about what the coalition leaders were discussing in their private session. "They have been in there for 6 hours," Lisa said quietly, checking her tablet for any updates from Earth Command. "That cannot be good for us," Jake replied, his military background making him suspicious of long closed-door meetings that excluded human representatives inside the chamber. High Coordinator Zexter addressed the assembled leaders from 40 different species, his 4 eyes scanning the room as he presented data that made many of them uncomfortable. Humanity has established 17 new colonies in the past 6 months alone, Zexter announced, his translator converting his clicking speech into words the council could understand. "Their military fleet has grown by 300% since they joined our coalition just 2 years ago." A murmur ran through the council chamber, concern clear on faces both familiar and strange. "They come from a death world," spoke Councillor Varen, a being made mostly of crystalline structures that reflected light in odd patterns. "Earth produces beings far more aggressive and adaptable than our own homeworlds ever could." "Exactly my point," Zexter continued, activating a holographic display that showed human colony expansion across previously empty systems. "We offered them the standard integration protocols, the same rules every new species accepts when joining the coalition, but they refused. The integration protocols were designed to limit how fast new species could expand and how large their military forces could grow, supposedly to maintain peace and prevent any one species from dominating the others. But humans had read the fine print and rejected them immediately. "What did Earth say when you presented the protocols?" asked another counselor from the back of the chamber. Their president Rodriguez said, and I quote, "that humanity did not fight its way to the stars just to be told where it could and could not live," Zexter answered, his tone showing his displeasure. He claimed the protocols were tools of control, not cooperation. More murmuring filled the chamber, some agreeing with the human assessment, others offended that a newcomer species dared to question coalition wisdom that had kept peace for 3,000 years. "I propose we issue an ultimatum," Zexter declared, his voice rising above the noise. "Either humanity accepts the integration protocols and limits its expansion, or we expel them from the coalition and enforce a blockade of all human systems until they comply." The vote took less than an hour, with 62% of the council supporting the ultimatum and only 28% opposing it. The remaining 10% abstaining from the decision entirely when the doors finally opened. Lisa Chun was called inside to receive the official decree. Jake Morrison waited in the corridor, watching her face as she read the document on her tablet, watching her expression shift from diplomatic neutrality to barely controlled anger. "They gave us 48 hours to accept their terms," Lisa said when she emerged, handing the tablet to Jake so he could read it himself. "If we refuse, they will position fleets around every human world and cut off all trade, all travel, all contact with the rest of the galaxy." Jake scrolled through the demands, his jaw tightening with each paragraph. Humanity would have to dismantle half its fleet, close 10 of its newest colonies, and submit all future expansion plans to coalition approval before proceeding. "This is not cooperation," Jake said, his voice hard. "This is submission." "I told them it was a mistake," Lisa replied, looking back at the closed council doors. I warned Zexter that humans do not respond well to threats. That our entire history shows we would rather fight impossible odds than surrender our freedom. What did he say? He said that was exactly why humanity needed to be controlled, Lisa answered. And Jake could hear the frustration in her voice. He actually used the word controlled, not guided or helped. But controlled like we were some dangerous animal that needed a cage. Back on Earth, President Matt Rodriguez received the ultimatum during a late-night emergency session with his cabinet and military advisors. The room fell silent as he read the coalition's demands, his expression growing darker with each passing moment. They want us to cut our fleet in half? He asked, looking up at Admiral Chris Bennett, the commander of Earth's entire military force. Yes, sir, Admiral Bennett confirmed, pulling up tactical displays that showed human ships scattered across 24 systems. And they want us to abandon the colonies we just established in the Outer Rim. Colonies where we already have 50,000 civilians living and working. How long before the coalition fleet reaches our borders? Rodriguez asked. Our intelligence officer Kate Williams reports they are already assembling, Bennett answered, highlighting several points on the star map where coalition ships were gathering. She intercepted communications showing they are summoning reinforcements from 6 different species, building a force they believe will convince us to comply without actual fighting. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair, thinking about the generations of humans who had dreamed of reaching the stars, who had worked and sacrificed to build the ships and technology that finally made it possible. And now alien governments wanted to dictate terms like Earth was some subordinate state instead of an independent world. How many ships are they gathering? He asked. Current count is 847. Kate Williams reported from her station, her screens showing real-time data from human spy satellites positioned throughout coalition space. The main fleet is assembling at 3 strategic points that would allow them to blockade our core systems if we refuse the ultimatum. And if we fight? Rodriguez asked the question everyone was thinking, but nobody wanted to say out loud. Admiral Bennett pulled up combat simulations his team had been running since the ultimatum arrived, showing various scenarios and outcomes. We are outnumbered roughly 6-1, Bennett said honestly. But our ships have advantages they do not know about. Upgrades we have been quietly installing over the past year, and our crew's training conditions that would kill most alien species. Dr. Amy Parker, Earth's chief science officer, stepped forward with her own report. Mr. President, the coalition bases their military doctrine on species that evolved on garden worlds, planets with light gravity, stable climates, and abundant resources, she explained, activating a comparison chart. Earth is classified as a death world, a planet so hostile that most alien species need protective suits just to visit our surface. And that matters in space combat. How? One of the cabinet members asked. Because we design our ships for humans who evolved to survive Earth, Amy continued. Our pilots can handle G-forces that would render alien crews unconscious. Our Marines train in environments ranging from Arctic ice to volcanic heat. And our entire military culture is built around the idea that we fight to win, not to posture. President Rodriguez stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the lights of the capital city below. Millions of humans going about their lives, unaware that their government was debating whether to submit to alien control or risk war. Send a message to the coalition, Rodriguez said finally, turning back to face his team. Tell them that Earth rejects their ultimatum, that we value cooperation but will never accept forced subordination, and that any attempt to blockade human worlds will be considered an act of war. Admiral Bennett nodded, already sending orders to the fleet to prepare for mobilization across coalition space. High Coordinator Zexter received Earth's response with a mixture of surprise and anger. He had been certain the humans would back down when faced with overwhelming force, certain they would choose peace over conflict. They refused? Counselor Vian asked in disbelief. Not only refused, Zexter replied, reading the message again. They called our ultimatum an attempt at forced subordination and threatened military response if we proceed with the blockade. Then we show them the cost of defiance, Zexter declared, activating his command console. Send the order to all coalition fleets. Move to blockade positions and prepare for potential conflict. And contact the Vex hegemony. Tell them we need their reinforcements immediately. The Vex hegemony controlled the most powerful military force among coalition member species. 400 warships commanded by veterans who had fought in dozens of successful campaigns. And within hours, they agreed to support the coalition's action against humanity on the USS Valiant. Commander Jake Morrison received orders to take his ship and join the human fleet assembling near the Arcturus colony, one of the newest human settlements and one of the 3 points where coalition forces were gathering for their blockade. All hands. Battle stations, Jake announced over the ship's communication system. This is not a drill. We are going to war. As the Valiant's engines powered up and the ship began its journey toward confrontation, Jake looked at the star charts showing coalition fleet. The emergency session in Earth Command Center continued through the night as reports flooded in from human colonies across occupied space. Coalition ships were already moving into position around key human worlds, not waiting for the 48-hour deadline to expire before beginning there. Blockade President Matt Rodriguez stood at the center of the command room, watching multiple screens display the unfolding situation across 24 star systems where human settlements now faced alien warships in their orbital space. Mr. President, we have confirmation from the Arcturus colony, reported an aide, her voice tight with controlled worry. 63 coalition vessels have established a perimeter around their planet. They are preventing any ships from leaving or entering the system. Same report from New Austin, another voice called out. And from the Cascade system, the coalition is moving faster than we anticipated. Admiral Chris Bennett moved beside Rodriguez, his tablet showing the tactical situation in real time as more and more coalition ships appeared on the display. They are trying to present us with a fait accompli, Bennett said, using the old French phrase for an accomplished fact. They want us to wake up and find ourselves already blockaded, already cut off, so that accepting their terms seems like the only reasonable option. How many civilians are trapped in those systems? Rodriguez asked. Approximately 400,000 across all the blockaded colonies, Bennett answered. None are in immediate danger. The coalition ships are maintaining distance and have not made any threatening moves. But our people cannot leave and supplies cannot get in. Rodriguez clenched his jaw, thinking about those 400,000 men, women, and children who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars, who now found themselves pawns in a political confrontation they never asked for. What are our fleet positions? Yes, Bennett activated the tactical display, showing human ships scattered across coalition space in various states of readiness. We have 147 capital ships available for immediate deployment, Bennett reported. Another 62 are in dock for maintenance, but could be rushed to readiness within 72 hours, against their 847, Rodriguez said quietly. Actually, our intelligence now shows the count has increased. Kate Williams interjected from her monitoring station. The coalition contacted the Vex hegemony and requested military support. The Vex agreed to send 400 additional warships to reinforce the coalition fleet. The room fell silent as everyone processed that information. The Vex hegemony was known throughout the galaxy as the most formidable military power in the coalition. Their commanders trained and experienced. Their technology proven in countless conflicts. So we faced 1,200 ships with less than 200 of our own, Rodriguez summarized. Those are not good odds. No, sir, they are not, Bennett agreed. But there are factors the Coalition does not know about. Advantages we have been quietly developing. He nodded to Dr. Amy Parker, who stepped forward with her presentation already prepared. Mr. President, for the past 18 months, we have been upgrading our entire fleet with new technology based on Deathworld engineering principles, Amy explained, activating a holographic model of a human warship that rotated slowly in the air above the conference table. The Coalition uses suppression fields to disable enemy weapons, she continued, highlighting specific components on the ship model. This technology has been effective against every species they have fought for the past 500 years. But we developed countermeasures based on principles that simply do not occur to species from gentler worlds. Show me. Rodriguez commanded Danny switched the display to show test footage of a human ship being hit by a suppression field. The kind that should have shut down all its weapon systems instantly. Watch what happens, she said. As the test continued, the suppression field washed over the human vessel. Energy readings spiked across multiple frequencies, and then nothing happened. The human ship's weapons remained fully operational, completely unaffected by technology that had decided battles for centuries. How? Rodriguez asked, leaning forward. Earth's magnetic field is unusually strong compared to most inhabited worlds, Amy explained. We developed our electronics to function in high-interference environments, as a matter of course. So Coalition suppression technology simply does not affect our systems the way it affects theirs. What else? Rodriguez pressed, sensing there was more. Our weapons have 40% greater range than standard Coalition armaments, Amy continued. We developed long-range railgun technology for asteroid mining in Sol System. But it translates very effectively to ship-to-ship combat. Admiral Bennett took over the presentation, showing combat simulations his tactical team had created. Our ships are also faster and more maneuverable, he said. Coalition vessels are designed for species that cannot handle high G-forces. Their maximum acceleration is limited by the physical tolerance of their crews. And humans? Rodriguez asked. Though he already knew the answer, humans evolved on a death world with strong gravity. Bennett replied with a slight smile. Our pilots train in conditions that would kill most alien species. We can pull maneuvers that would render Coalition crews unconscious or worse. Rodriguez walked around the holographic display, studying the simulated battles from multiple angles, watching human ships dart and weave through formations that Coalition vessels could not match. You are telling me we can win this? He asked. I am telling you we have a chance, Bennett corrected. The numbers are still against us, but if we fight smart and use our advantages, we can hurt them badly enough that they reconsider their ultimatum. President Rodriguez looked around the room at his advisors, military commanders, and scientific experts, seeing determination on every face, despite the overwhelming odds they faced. Prepare a statement for public broadcast, Rodriguez ordered. I want every human in Coalition space to hear this directly from me. And I want the Coalition to hear it too, within an hour. Every screen across human space lit up with the President's face. His expression serious, but not afraid. My fellow humans, both on Earth and across the stars, Rodriguez began. By now many of you know that the Galactic Coalition has issued an ultimatum demanding we accept limits on our freedom to explore and settle new worlds. Demanding we reduce our ability to defend ourselves. Demanding we submit to their control. He paused, letting that sink in. I stand before you tonight to tell you that Earth rejects these demands, Rodriguez continued, his voice firm. We did not fight our way to the stars, did not build ships and colonies and new homes among distant suns, just to bow to threats from those who fear our potential across Coalition space. Alien leaders watched the broadcast with growing alarm. Not used to such defiant language from newer member species, The coalition claims they want peace, Rodriguez said. But they define peace as submission. They want cooperation, but only on their terms. They speak of rules while positioning warships around our homes. To the coalition leaders watching this, I say clearly, remove your fleets from human space. Recognize our right to chart our own course among the stars. And we will gladly work with you as equals, the president declared. But if you choose to maintain this blockade, if you choose to threaten our people and our freedom, then you will discover what it means to fight a species from a death world. To every human watching this, whether on Earth or in the colonies, stand strong. Trust in our defenders, and remember that throughout our history, humans have never surrendered our freedom without a fight, Rodriguez concluded. We go to the stars not as subjects, but as free people. And we will remain free no matter the cost. The broadcast ended, and across human space, civilian populations began preparing for whatever came next, while military crews rushed to their ships on the USS Valiant. Commander Jake Morrison watched the president's speech with his crew, seeing the effect it had on every man and woman under his command. The captain has given us our orders, Jake announced after the broadcast finished. We jump to the Arcturus system in 2 hours, where we will face coalition forces attempting to blockade our colony. Captain Brandon Hayes pulled up the tactical data showing what they would encounter. Intelligence counts 283 coalition ships in orbit around Arcturus. Brandon reported, we will be joining 46 other human vessels for a total force of 47 against their 283. 6-to-1 odds, someone muttered from the back of the briefing room. They think those odds favor them. Jake replied, turning to face his crew. They think numerical superiority guarantees victory. They think we will see their fleet and surrender without fighting. He activated a display showing Earth from space, the blue-green planet that gave birth to humanity. But they evolved on worlds where life was easy, where gravity was light, where climate was stable, and resources were abundant. Jake continued. We come from a planet that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. From a world where only the strong and adaptable survived. And we carry that legacy in our blood and bones. The crew listened. Every face focused on their commander. So when we drop into the Arcturus system and see their fleet waiting for us, remember what you are. Remember what Earth made you capable of. And show them why you never threaten a Deathworlders' home. The USS Valiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Arcturus system, its sensors immediately cataloging the coalition fleet that surrounded the human colony below. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display populate with red icons, representing enemy vessels. Confirmed count is 283 coalition ships, reported Lieutenant Monica Tran from the weapons station, her fingers already dancing across her console as she targeted enemy positions. They are in a standard blockade formation around the colony planet. Our fleet? Jake asked. 46 ships have arrived and are forming up on our position, answered Captain Brandon Hayes from Tactical. Total human strength is 47 vessels against their 283. Commander Tyler Brooks from Engineering chimed in with his report. All systems are green. Shields at maximum, weapons charged and ready, Tyler said, his screen showing power flowing through the ship's upgraded systems. The new countermeasures are online and tested. Jake studied the enemy formation, noting how the coalition ships had arranged themselves in overlapping defensive layers, clearly designed to present overwhelming firepower to any attacker while protecting each other from concentrated assault. They are hailing us, Monica reported. Put it through. Jake ordered the main screen shifted to show Coalition Fleet Commander Vrask, a being with 6 limbs and compound eyes that reflected light in strange patterns. He looked at Jake with what might have been amusement or contempt. The human commander could not quite tell with such an alien face. Human vessel Valiant, Rask began, his translator rendering his speech in flat mechanical tones. You and your fleet are ordered to stand down and return to Earth space immediately. This system is now under coalition control until your government accepts the integration protocols. This system contains a human colony with 50,000 civilians, Jake replied calmly. You are blockading our people, preventing supply ships from reaching them. That is an act of war. It is an enforcement action, Rask corrected. One that will end as soon as Earth submits to reasonable restrictions. I strongly suggest you withdraw before this situation escalates. Jake glanced at his tactical display, seeing the massive disparity in numbers. Seeing how confident Rask was in his overwhelming advantage, I have a counter-suggestion, Jake said. You remove your fleet from our colony, you return to coalition space, and we pretend this blockade never happened. Rask's compound eyes seemed to shimmer with what the human commander interpreted as laughter. You command 47 ships against my 283. Rask stated, you are outnumbered 6-1. Surely even Deathworlders can count. We can count just fine, Jake replied. The question is whether you have counted the cost of attacking us. There will be no cost, Rask declared. In 30 seconds, I will activate our suppression field, a technology that will disable your weapon systems instantly. You will have no choice but to surrender. I am giving you this warning out of respect for your courage. However, misguided, the communication cut off, leaving Jake and his crew staring at the tactical display as a timer appeared showing 30 seconds until the coalition deployed their supposedly devastating technology. All ships, be ready. Jake broadcast to the human fleet. They are going to hit us with their suppression field. Do not be alarmed when it has no effect. Suppression field activating, Monica reported as energy readings spiked across multiple frequencies. Field is washing over the fleet now. Every human ship was bathed in exotic radiation designed to interfere with weapon systems. Technology that had decided battles for 5 centuries. Technology that coalition commanders relied on absolutely, and nothing happened on the coalition flagship. Rask stared at his displays in confusion as the suppression field activated perfectly, but human weapons remained online and operational. Impossible, he whispered. Check the field generators. There must be a malfunction. Generators are functioning normally, his technician reported. Field strength is at optimal levels, but the human ships show no effect. Then they have somehow shielded against our suppression technology, Rask concluded, his confidence shaken for the first time. No matter, we still outnumber them 6-1. All ships open fire. Disable those human vessels. The coalition fleet opened up with coordinated volleys. Energy weapons and projectiles crossing the void toward the human formation. Enough firepower to cripple a fleet twice the size of the human force. Shields holding, Tyler reported as the Valiant shuddered under multiple impacts. Ablative armor is absorbing the excess energy. We are taking hits, but nothing critical. Return fire, Jake ordered. All batteries, engage at will. The human fleet responded with its own weapons, and coalition commanders immediately noticed something wrong. Human railgun fire was reaching them from ranges their own weapons could not match. They are firing from 40% beyond our effective range, a coalition officer reported to Rask. How is that possible? All ships advance, Rask ordered. Close the distance and engage properly. But as the coalition fleet moved forward, human ships demonstrated another advantage. They accelerated and maneuvered with G-forces that would have rendered most alien. Crew's unconscious Monica coordinated her targeting with the rest of the human fleet, using the advantage of longer range to hammer coalition ships before they could effectively return fire. Target the ships in Sector 3, she directed. Concentrate fire and punch through their shields, human railguns. designed for breaking apart asteroids and Sol Systems mining operations, proved devastatingly effective against Coalition defensive systems. One by one, enemy vessels began to show damage, their shields failing under sustained bombardment. "They are trying to flank us," Brandon called out, highlighting Coalition movements on the tactical display. "Helm, execute evasive pattern Delta." Jake commanded the Valiant, and the rest of the human fleet began maneuvering in ways Coalition ships simply could not match, pulling turns that generated forces measured in multiples of Earth gravity, forces that human pilots endured through training and physiology while alien crews struggled to remain conscious. Tyler monitored the strain on the ship's systems as they pushed beyond normal operational parameters. "Inertial dampeners at 80%, he reported. Crews experiencing 4.2 G-forces, still within human tolerance. For the human crew, 4.2 Gs meant discomfort and strain, a weight on their chests that made breathing harder but not impossible for most Coalition species. Such forces would have meant blackouts and physical injury. Commander Vrask watched in growing horror as his numerical advantage failed to produce the expected results. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons reached farther than anything in the Coalition arsenal. "We have lost 37 ships," his tactical officer reported. "Another 48 are damaged and withdrawing from combat. We still outnumber them 2 to 1, Vrask insisted. "Press the attack. Overwhelm them with concentrated fire." But the human fleet had no intention of sitting still and trading shots. They used their superior mobility to avoid the worst of Coalition firepower while methodically destroying enemy vessels, one squadron at a time. "Targets in Sector 3 are neutralized," Monica reported. Moving to Sector 5, Coalition ships are breaking formation, Brandon observed, watching as the enemy fleet's careful arrangement dissolved into chaos. Individual Coalition captains, watching their sister ships get torn apart by human weapons, began making their own decisions about whether staying in the fight was worth the cost. "Some of them are retreating," Tyler noted, tracking ships that were burning hard away from the battle. Jake pulled up fleet-wide communications. "All human ships, pursue retreating vessels," he ordered. "Do not let them regroup. Keep the pressure on." The human fleet split into hunting packs, chasing down Coalition ships that had lost their nerve and were trying to escape the system on the Coalition flagship. Vrask faced a choice no commander wanted to make: continue a losing battle and risk his entire fleet, or order a general retreat and admit defeat. "Sir, we have lost 94 ships destroyed and another 43 too damaged to continue fighting," his tactical officer reported. The numbers still climbing as human weapons found their marks. "The human fleet has lost only 6 vessels. 6 against 94, Vrask repeated, the mathematics of the situation crushing his confidence. "How is this possible?" "They are Deathworlders," another officer said quietly. "Perhaps we underestimated what that means. All ships, full retreat," Vrask finally ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of failure. "Get us out of this system immediately." The Coalition fleet broke and ran, ships accelerating as fast as their crews could endure toward the system's edge, where they could jump to faster-than-light travel and escape. Jake watched them go, resisting the urge to chase them down and destroy every last vessel. "Let them run," he decided. "They need to report what happened here. They need to tell the Coalition that threatening human worlds comes with a price." "Sir, we are receiving transmissions from the colony," Monica reported. "The civilians want to know if the blockade is over." "Tell them yes," Jake replied. "Tell them the Coalition fleet is retreating and human space is secure across the Arcturus system." Human colonists emerged from their shelters to see the remains of the Vex hegemony's reinforcement fleet arrived in Coalition space with military precision. 400 warships emerging from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Their hulls bearing the marks of dozens of successful campaigns and their crews trained to standards. Most Coalition species could not match. Supreme Commander Dexner stood on the bridge of his flagship, reviewing the battle reports from Arcturus and the other human victories with an analytical mind that had made him legendary among Coalition military forces. The Coalition commanders made fundamental errors, he told his senior officers, highlighting key moments in the tactical recordings. They relied on technology that proved ineffective. They underestimated human mobility and weapons range. And they panicked when their numerical advantage did not produce instant victory. So we will not make those mistakes? Asked his second-in-command. We will not attack at all, Dexner replied, surprising many in the room. We will position our fleet in a defensive formation around the Coalition's main supply hub, creating a target that humans cannot ignore but also cannot overcome. He activated a holographic display showing his planned deployment. 400 ships in overlapping defensive layers. Dexner explained, each squadron supporting the others. No gaps for human vessels to exploit. If they want to attack this position, they will face concentrated firepower from multiple directions with no room for their maneuvering advantage. And if they do not attack? Someone asked. Then we have effectively protected Coalition assets while demonstrating that human victories came only against inferior commanders using poor tactics, Dexner answered. Either way, we accomplish our mission. The Vex fleet moved into position around Meridian Station, the Coalition's largest logistics center, which coordinated supply lines for civilian shipping across 40 systems. It was a target that mattered, infrastructure that supported millions of Coalition citizens. Admiral Chris Bennett watched the Vex deployment from Earth Command, analyzing their formation with experienced eyes. He is good, Bennett admitted, studying Dexner's defensive arrangement. The formation has no obvious weaknesses. Attacking it directly would cost the ships we cannot afford to lose. Captain Lauren Martinez stood beside him, her own tactical experience making her valuable in strategic planning. Then we do not attack it directly, Lauren suggested, pulling up a different map that showed Coalition space in broader context. If they want to sit in defensive positions protecting their infrastructure, we attack their infrastructure everywhere they are not. Bennett looked at her proposal, seeing the logic immediately. Hit their supply lines, their shipyards, their resource extraction operations, he said, working through the implications. Force them to either chase us or watch as we dismantle their ability to sustain a long conflict. Exactly, Lauren agreed. We split our forces into fast raiding groups, strike hard at vulnerable targets, and jump out before they can respond. That is total war, Bennett observed. Not a limited engagement over blockade rights. They made it total war when they positioned fleets around our civilian colonies, Lauren replied. We are just acknowledging the reality of the situation. President Rodriguez joined our discussion. Having listened to the entire exchange, will this strategy work? He asked. It changes the nature of the conflict, Bennett answered honestly. Instead of fighting set battles where they have numerical advantage, we force them to defend everything while we can attack anywhere. But there is a political dimension to consider, Rodriguez said, activating a communication from Ambassador Lisa Chun, who had remained in Coalition space throughout the conflict. Lisa appeared on screen, broadcasting from a secure location. Mr. President, I have been talking with Coalition civilians and minor government officials, she reported. Many are uncomfortable with this conflict. They see it as unnecessary aggression against a new species that simply wants freedom to chart its own course. Can we leverage that? Rodriguez asked. If we avoid targeting civilian infrastructure and focus on military and government assets. Yes, Lisa answered. I can broadcast messages explaining that humanity does not want conquest or revenge. We just want the coalition to leave us alone. But Supreme Commander Dexner will not just let us raid coalition space unchallenged, Bennett interjected. No. He will chase us, Rodriguez agreed. But if Captain Martinez is correct, we can stay ahead of him while still doing damage to their war-making capability. The decision was made, and human forces began reorganizing into raiding groups, each with specific targets and strict orders to avoid civilian casualties. Captain Lauren Martinez took command of a squadron of 12 human ships, all fast vessels designed for hit-and-run operations rather than sustained combat. Our target is the Foundry Complex in the Kepler system, she briefed her captains. It is a major weapons production facility that supplies 30% of coalition military hardware. Defenses? Asked one of the squadron leaders. Minimal, Lauren replied. The coalition never expected anyone would dare attack their industrial centers. They have a few patrol ships, but nothing compared to what we will bring. The raid launched within 24 hours. Human ships jumping into the Kepler system and immediately accelerating toward the Foundry Complex before defenders could organize a response. 12 enemy patrol ships moving to intercept, reported Lauren's tactical officer. They are broadcasting demands that we leave coalition space immediately. Ignore them, Lauren ordered. Weapons. Target the complex's main production centers. Avoid the worker habitation areas. Human railguns open fire with devastating accuracy, punching through the lightly defended industrial structures and setting off-chain reactions in the weapons stockpiles stored within. Complex is showing major damage, her sensor officer reported. Secondary explosions across multiple sectors. Production capability is effectively destroyed. Enemy patrol ships are closing. Tactical warned. Time to leave, Lauren decided. All ships, jump coordinates locked. Execute on my mark. The human squadron vanished into faster-than-light travel, just as coalition patrol ships reached weapons range, leaving behind the burning wreckage of a facility that would take years to rebuild. Similar raids occurred across coalition space over the following days. Human forces striking shipyards, supply depots, and communication hubs with surgical precision. Supreme Commander Dexner watched these attacks with growing frustration, seeing his careful defensive strategy rendered irrelevant as humans simply bypassed his fleet to attack softer targets. They are not fighting the way they are supposed to, he complained during a staff meeting. They should attack our fleet, prove their superiority in direct combat. They are fighting smart, his second-in-command replied. Why attack our strength when they can exploit our weakness? Then we divide our fleet, Dexner decided. Send squadrons to protect key installations across coalition space. That dilutes our numerical advantage, someone objected. If we spread out, the humans could mass their forces against isolated squadrons and defeat us in detail. We have no choice, Dexner insisted. We cannot sit here while they destroy coalition infrastructure piece by piece. The Vex fleet split into smaller groups, each assigned to protect important facilities. But this played directly into human strategic planning. Admiral Bennett watched the Vex deployment changes with satisfaction. He took the bait, Bennett said. Now instead of facing 400 ships in one defensive position, we face them in groups of 20 to 30, which we can handle, Lauren Martinez added, planning her next raid. Especially if we coordinate attacks to keep them off balance. But as human raids continued, an unexpected consequence emerged. Ambassador Lisa Chun's broadcasts to coalition civilians began having an effect. People are questioning why we are fighting this war, she reported during her regular updates to Earth. They see human forces destroying military targets while carefully avoiding civilian casualties. They hear me explaining that humanity just wants to be left alone. And they wonder why their government is so determined to control us. Is there political pressure on the Coalition Council? Rodriguez asked. Growing pressure, Lisa confirmed. Several member species have called for negotiations. They see this conflict as wasteful and unnecessary, bad for trade and stability. But High Coordinator Zexter remains committed to forcing human submission. Rodriguez pressed. Yes, he sees backing down now as weakness that would undermine Coalition authority, Lisa answered. But his support is eroding in Coalition command. Zexter faced exactly the political problems Lisa described. 3 more member species have formally requested we negotiate with Earth, Councillor Viren reported. They argue that continued conflict serves no purpose. We cannot negotiate, Zexter replied firmly. If we allow humans to defy integration protocols, what prevents other species from doing the same? The entire coalition structure depends on newer members accepting their place in the established order. But we are losing this war. Viren stated bluntly, the humans raid our infrastructure at will. Supreme Commander Dexner cannot protect everything, and public support for the conflict is collapsing. Then we escalate, Zexter declared. Pulling up classified files on Coalition weapon systems, we have antimatter weapons in strategic reserve. Designed for extreme situations, you want to use antimatter against human colonies. Operation Starbreak launched with coordinated precision across 3 separate star systems. Human forces moving simultaneously to destroy Coalition antimatter weapons before they could be deployed against civilian targets, Commander Jake Morrison led the strike on the primary facility, a heavily fortified station in the Terminus system where half of the Coalition's antimatter arsenal was stored under maximum security. 18 minutes until we drop into the system, Jake announced to his crew, the USS Valiant leading a task force of 23 human ships specially chosen for this critical mission. Intelligence says the station has 42 defensive platforms and 73 Coalition ships on patrol. They will not surrender these weapons without a fight. Captain Brandon Hayes reviewed the tactical plan one final time, highlighting weak points in the station's defensive grid. The antimatter storage is here, he indicated on the holographic display, deep inside the station's core, protected by reinforced armor and energy shields, designed to contain antimatter in case of accident, which means if we hit it hard enough, the explosion will destroy the entire facility. Lieutenant Monica Tran observed from her weapons station. Exactly, Jake confirmed. But we need to get through their defenses first. And we need to do it fast before they can move the weapons or use them. The task force dropped into normal space at the edge of the Terminus system, sensors immediately detecting the Coalition station and its defensive fleet. Enemy ships are moving to intercept, Brandon reported. They are broadcasting warnings and demanding we leave immediately. Ignore them, Jake ordered. All ships, maximum acceleration toward the station. Weapons free. The human fleet punched through the first line of defenders with the same advantages that had won previous battles. Superior range and maneuverability, allowing them to disable Coalition ships before the enemy could effectively respond. But Supreme Commander Dexner had anticipated human tactics this time, positioning his own forces to respond to exactly this kind of raid. Vex reinforcements entering the system, Monica called out urgently. 63 heavy warships on intercept course. The Supreme Commander himself is here, Brandon added, identifying Dexner's flagship among the Vex vessels. He must have predicted we would try this. Jake made a split-second decision that would determine the outcome of the entire operation. Task Force splits, he commanded. Group Alpha continues to the station and destroys those weapons. Group Beta engages the Vex fleet and keeps them busy. The human ships divided. 12 vessels breaking off to face Dexner's force, while 11 continued toward the antimatter facility with Jake in command on Dexner's flagship. The Vex commander watched the human formation split with satisfaction. "They are dividing their forces," he observed. 12 ships against 63. They cannot possibly hold us. Should we pursue the vessels heading for the station? His tactical officer asked. No. Dexner decided. Those ships are doomed regardless. The station defenses will destroy them. We crush these 12 vessels first, and then deal with the survivors. But the 12 human ships had no intention of fighting a conventional battle. Their mission was to delay. To buy time for Jake's group to complete their objective, Captain Lauren Martinez commanded the delaying force. Her tactical mind already calculating how to make 12 ships frustrate 63 for as long as possible. All vessels. Pattern scatter, she ordered. Use the asteroid field for cover. Make them chase us through difficult terrain. The human ships vanished into a nearby asteroid belt. Using their superior maneuverability to weave between massive rocks that would crush coalition vessels if they followed at high speed. They are hiding in the asteroids. The XNRS officer reported with frustration. Send in pursuit teams. The Supreme Commander ordered. Flush them out and destroy them. But every Vex ship that entered the asteroid field found itself engaged by human vessels that darted out from behind cover. Fired devastating railgun salvos and then disappeared again before the enemy could return fire effectively. Meanwhile, Jake's group approached the antimatter facility, facing defensive platforms that opened fire with concentrated energy beams. Shields at 70%. Commander Tyler Brooks reported from engineering. Platform fire is heavier than expected. Target the platforms first, Jake commanded. Clear a path to the station. Human weapons methodically destroyed the defensive emplacements one by one. Creating gaps in the protective grid allowed the task force to close distance with the station itself inside the facility. Coalition personnel watched in growing panic as human ships penetrated their defenses. They are going to destroy the antimatter storage, the station commander realized. Evacuate all personnel immediately. But there was not enough time. Monica locked targeting systems on the station's core, calculating the exact point where antimatter containment met reinforced armor. Firing solution confirmed, she reported. One concentrated barrage should breach the containment and trigger a cascade reaction. All ships, focus fire on my mark, Jake ordered, knowing this was the moment that mattered. Fire. 23 human vessels unleashed their full weapons capacity simultaneously. Railgun rounds and energy beams converging on a single point in the station's defensive shell. The armor held for 3 seconds, then 4. Then catastrophically failed as concentrated kinetic energy punched through and into the antimatter storage beyond the containment field collapsed. Antimatter made contact with normal matter, and the resulting explosion lit up the terminus system like a newborn star. Jump out now, Jake commanded as the shockwave expanded. All ships execute emergency faster than light immediately. The human task force vanished into hyperspace, just as the antimatter detonation reached critical intensity. The entire facility and everything within 10,000 kilometers vaporized in an instant of pure energy in the asteroid field. Lauren Martinez watched her tactical display as Jake's signal confirmed mission success. Primary target destroyed. She announced to her crews, all ships, break off and jump to Rally Point Alpha. The 12 human vessels disengaged from their cat-and-mouse game with Vex forces and jumped to safety, leaving the Xeners staring at the expanding debris cloud where the antimatter facility had been. They succeeded, he said quietly, admitting a defeat he had not anticipated. They destroyed our antimatter weapons. Reports coming in from the other 2 facilities, his officer added grimly. Both also destroyed by human strike forces. All 3 antimatter arsenals are gone. Supreme Commander Dexner sat in his command chair, processing the tactical reality. Not only had humans destroyed weapons the Coalition planned to use against civilian targets, They had done so against defended positions with Vex forces present. Order all Vex ships to return to Coalition space, he commanded, surprising everyone on his bridge. This battle is over, sir? His second-in-command asked in confusion. We still have numerical superiority. We can continue the fight. To what end? Vexener replied, every assumption we made about human capabilities has proven wrong. They are faster, better armed, more tactically flexible, and more determined than any species I have fought in 40 years. He pulled up casualty reports from across the conflict. We have lost over 300 ships trying to force human submission. Vexener continued, they have lost less than 50. The mathematics are clear. So we surrender? Someone asked. We acknowledge reality. Vexener corrected. Humans are not some minor species that needs to be controlled. They are a legitimate military power that earned their place through combat. Continuing this war serves no purpose except pride. The Vex commander opened a communication channel to Coalition headquarters. High Coordinator Zexter. This is Supreme Commander Vexener, he began. I am recommending immediate cessation of hostilities with Earth and emergency negotiations for a new treaty. We cannot negotiate from a position of defeat. Zexter protested. We already are defeated. Vexener replied bluntly. The humans have destroyed our antimatter weapons, raided our infrastructure at will, and defeated every force we sent against them. Continuing the conflict will only result in more casualties we cannot afford. But the integration protocols, Zexter started, were never appropriate for a species like humanity. Vexener interrupted. You cannot control Deathworlders the way you control Garden World species. They evolved to fight and survive against impossible odds. That is what they do. The conversation ended with Zexter reluctantly agreeing to request. Negotiations President Matt Rodriguez received the Coalition's request for peace talks with cautious relief. They want to negotiate? He asked Admiral Bennett. Supreme Commander Vexener himself recommended it. Bennett confirmed. He apparently realized we were not going to back down regardless of the cost. What are our losses? Rodriguez inquired. Final count is 47 ships destroyed. 3,216 casualties, Bennett reported. Heavy losses. But we held every colony and forced the Coalition to abandon their ultimatum. Ambassador Elisa Chun prepared for the negotiations with careful attention to both human needs and Coalition political realities. We need to give them a way to save face, she advised President Rodriguez. If we humiliate them completely, hardliners like Zexter will have support for continued resistance. What do you suggest? Rodriguez asked. Mutual recognition of sovereignty, Lisa proposed.